Welcome to the Nick and Jimmy Show. On today's episode, we have the one and only Gabriel Araish. Was that good?
That's great.
Perfect. Welcome, man.
Thank
All the
you.
way from Florida.
That's right. But I'm not the one and only because I have like two cousins that have the same exact name. But I'm the one and only to you guys.
Gabriel, for the people that don't know you, who are you and what do you do? What's your purpose in life?
My purpose. That's a tough one. You know what? I want to help as many people as I can. That's my purpose. Now that I figured it out, it took time, but that's what it is. But I'm a CPA by profession. I haven't practiced for a while. Did the whole audit KPMG thing and ended up working for the regulator as well. So worked for l'Autorité des marchés financiers when I was still in Quebec, up until I guess retired myself from being an employee. And since then, I've continued to help people in different ways. Consulting, I help them with business strategy, help them with the capital raising, the compliance side of capital raising. So I will not raise capital for anyone, but I will help you structure it in a way where you don't end up in an orange jumpsuit because most of us don't look good in orange. But essentially, that's kind of what I do now. And I work with a lot of fund managers and I educate. I love teaching. So teach real estate, teach investment funds, and then work with different clients that want to scale up while raising capital. And I help direct them to the right capital based on their own business strategies.
Interesting. And you wrote a book with the MF.
I did not for the MF. It was actually just as I was leaving the MF. It was, when you raise capital or raising capital in and of itself, especially in Canada, is is something that's not really well known in terms of that there are rules around it. Most people don't even know there are rules around capital raising. So people will start businesses and or they want to buy real estate. That's kind of the most common thing because everybody wants to start with real estate and it's gotten so expensive. Nobody can put more than one down payment, for example. So when it's starting to scale, they want to go raise capital. And they just go start asking, you start by asking your mom and dad, maybe if they have the capital, and that's okay. But then people will start asking their friends, just random people. I've seen people post on Facebook, Twitter, you name it. They've just like, I need capital to do this. I'll give you this much return. And all that's not permitted. It's solicitation. You're not allowed to do it. And when I was at the MF, I saw so many cases of individuals that kind of ended up in hot water because, not because they had ill intentions, because most people who raise capital are doing it for the right reasons. They're not doing it to screw anyone or commit fraud. I mean, some out there are, but most of them have good intentions. And when you see someone with good intentions kind of end up in the wheelhouse of the regulator, where they're going to get a slap on the wrist, get fines. The thing is anytime you make a mistake with in the securities world, it's a judgment that comes out, and all judgments are public. So that's something that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. If you Google company name or the person's name, eventually, obviously the longer it's been, the further down the pages you'll be, but it's still going to be something that people find. So
Just like Grant Cardone.
amongst other people, correct. But I saw a lot of companies. When you're a mining company out of BC, you're this guy that just you bought a claim. You want to just
A mining company?
a mining company,
Okay, yeah.
right? You want to dig, and I'm not talking crypto mining here because maybe you have a lot of, what is it, the millennials, but no, traditional mining, right? Because there's a lot of these guys that I used to, see their files at the EMF. They're the CEO, the CFO, the geologist, like they wear all the hats, right? So when it's time to raise capital, they don't have the capital to hire big shot attorneys. And our securities rules, at least in Canada, are written, even in the US, are written for attorneys. They're not written for the average Joe to read and understand what's going on. So that's why I wrote the book. I saw too many of these, small and medium type entrepreneurs get into hot water for just basically not knowing the rules. And just like driving a car, you can get into a car and drive. If you didn't read the book or you don't know what the rules of the road are, and you pass a red light because you just don't know you have to stop at a red light, if there's a police there,
You're getting
they're
stuck.
gonna stop you. And if you tell them, "Well, I didn't know," you think, is ignorance ever like you're still getting a ticket whether you knew or not. In fact, maybe you're gonna get in more trouble because you probably don't have a license. But just to say that the same rules apply. Like ignorance is not a defense. Basically, is what it is. So I wrote the book. I hope to help people. I know a lot of people kind of started calling me for consulting and all that. They found it interesting because they didn't know that there were rules. But like I said, if I can help at least one, two people stay out of jail, that'd be great.
Awesome.
And you used to live in Canada, Montreal, actually,
I did.
specifically.
Yeah.
And like Jimmy asked before, what made you go to Florida?
Yeah. So obviously when the pandemic
No, you
hit,
went to Vermont, no?
no, I wish. No, no, I don't wish at all. If I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave the cold, the winter, everything. Really, what happened is when just before COVID, I was, I was already an entrepreneur. I had quit my job and I was working from home. I was all alone every day. My wife would go to work, the children go to school, and then when we got locked down the first time, my wife started working from home too. The kids were home. It got really, really difficult. Like just operating, it wasn't the same. And we all thought it was going to go back pretty quickly. It was just going to be this 2 week thing or whatnot, and then it ended up extending to weeks, months. To be honest, I started getting a little bit depressed. I didn't know where we were going. If
Like a lot of people.
yeah, but not just. I was even reflecting on my business. Am I
Okay.
in the right place? Am I doing the right things? Most of my business was in the U.S. already. The clients that I work with was in the U.S. already. Canada was getting excessively harder to work with. Like even the capital raising rules are a little bit more complex here. There's obviously a lot less money here. I mean, there's still a lot of it here. If you want to do deals here, like it's doable. But for what I was doing, because most of the deals I was doing are in the U.S., it's a lot harder to get capital across the border. There's more structuring, taxes, whatnot. So, I started thinking maybe this is the right time. Everybody's home. My wife's working from home too. If there's a time that we're going to make a change in our lives, it should be now. And I put that on the table. It was vetoed by my wife. So we stuck around for a few months. And then, one day she just got up and said, you know what? I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do it. And we started the process. Obviously just for everybody's benefit, because they're going to say, yeah, but it's not easy. And they're right. It's not easy. Is it doable? 100%. Can anybody do it? Probably. Is everybody willing to do it is the real question. And it's heavy enough that not everyone wants to do it, especially if you're an employee and maybe what you're doing is not something that's really in demand in the US. Not gonna be hard. I'm a U.S. citizen already. When my father immigrated from his country, he went straight to the U.S. So I became a U.S. citizen by birth as well, even though I was born in Canada. So it was a lot easier for me. But my wife still had to go down there with what they call an L1A, which is her employer who has a subsidiary in the U.S. They basically gave her a role there, not sponsor. That's two different things, but just basically
Work
gave
permit.
her an employment over there so that she gets that visa and the kids kind of hop on that visa. The sponsor is me now. We're applying for immigration for them. And that's another whole process that's, out of my hands. There's a lot of information to provide. I got to convince them that she's my wife, that we didn't get married just to immigrate and
You
get
have
a
kids
US.
together.
Believe it or not, it's just not enough. There's a lot of it's not fun, but it's part of the
A lot of
process.
paperwork.
It is, but in the end, when you weigh the cost benefits, and cost is not just financial. Cost is the work you put in, the time. It's well worth it. Like I keep saying, I wish I had done this earlier.
But it's crazy how people come in illegally
Yeah.
and they get to stay. And after 30 days, they put them in detention for 30 days or something.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I
And then,
you know what? I'm not a big. I don't follow much of that process. I know that there's buses that are heading to DC or whatnot from Texas, but again, it's I can only control what I can control, and I can control me and parts of my family. Actually, at this point, I think they control me, but
Here's a question for you. Why leave the country and not just a province? You weren't happy with what weren't you happy with Canada?
that's a great
Because
point.
it's one of the
Yeah.
safest countries in the world, right?
No, that's what they like to make you believe, but
Okay.
I don't believe that. I believe that the safe part is not what I was concerned about, because safety is something you can choose to live in, right? Because in Montreal, just take Montreal as a
Yeah, but I'm talking about
a big city.
gun laws, no gun laws.
Well, again, it's I'm not here to debate that, but it can be argued that
No,
you could be safer. You could be say, like, I don't feel less safe because guns are allowed. In fact, to a certain extent, I've picked a location to live in based on safety. So that's what I mean, is that even in Montreal, there's pockets of Montreal where if you wouldn't go collect your rent without a gun if you could, right? So I think safety is just something that you have to pick. Yes, you see all these things on TV about schools and whatnot, but we can have a whole podcast on how come it's always schools and it's never anywhere else, right? Like, has anybody thought of that? Why is it always that? But it to me, it didn't worry me, that part. Is it in back of your mind? Like when your kids go to school, all that, it is at a certain point, but they've now secured schools, especially at least where my kids go to school. There's police on location, like they're on the payroll, right? It's not that they're cops that are loaned to the school; they're always there. So I wasn't really afraid of that. For me, what I was looking at is, 10 years from now. First of all, we were in a position where we were looking for a new house. We bought our house in 2011. We did really well with it. Obviously, inflation took care of it for the last 10 years, 15 years. And we were starting to look for another house. We wanted to move to something a little bit bigger because I was working from home and we didn't have an office. We had 3 bedrooms. We didn't have an office. And we wanted to just get to something bigger. And it was like, man, if the prices were ridiculous, it's like, if we can't do it, and we do well, between my wife and I, we do well. We would be considered in, probably in the 1 to 2% of the income brackets. So, and we're having trouble kind of settling in on a home. We're like, man, this is crazy. Even with the low interest rates at the time, it was like, it doesn't make sense to move. Like, we should just stay here. And I started thinking, like, what's going to happen when my kids, it's time for them to buy a house? If it's like this now, what's going to happen when my kids are, and they were little, right? They were 11 when we moved. So if my daughter, let's say, wants to move out and buy a house at 25, it's still only like 14, 15 years from now or from that time. And what are the optics of the economy and the way the politics are going? And for me, politically and economically, Canada, I think, is trending down. It's my opinion. Whether you support it or not is really, that's not what it's about. My decision to move was based on my opinion of what's coming. So again, I don't want you to think that this is a generalization or not. It's
your
not.
opinion. It's fair.
It's my opinion. I think it's trending down. And I was even to the point where I was going to keep my house, but then I realizing kind of what's coming, the perfect storm in real estate here, at least, again, my opinion, with a lot of people started buying houses, as you know, in 2020, 2021, during the COVID, when interest rates started plummeting. A lot of people, bought houses with 1.8%, 2% interest rates. Was ridiculous. The issue is that they're 5-year rates. So 5 years from now that the interest rates have skyrocketed, and I haven't checked Canada, like what are the interest rates going now if you want to
7%.
7%. So if you go from 1.8 or 2% to 7%, and you bought a house that was well over your means at 7%, but not at 2%, 2025
You're losing the house.
is going to be there might be a tsunami. That's how I see it. So I sold a house, and I'm happy I did, because I was on a variable rate and I don't know what was going to happen, and I don't want to be caught with that. So now at least I figured I was all cash, and if I need to buy back into something, I could. But at least I don't have to be stuck in something, because that's the worst position you can be in.
Mm.
Being stuck with an asset that you can't get rid of, being asset rich, cash poor, it's tough. Been there, done that. I'm not interested anymore.
Talk about assets and real estate specifically. Do you find there's more opportunities in the US for real estate investors or Canada, and why?
It's tough to say. I work exclusively in the US for real estate. So I find that there's a lot of opportunity, and the more interest rates go up, certain asset classes are getting bigger beatings than others. So there's a lot of opportunity. But I would go to say that there's probably the same here if you're looking. I'm not looking here, so it's hard for me to tell you that there aren't. But again, it's just there's a lot more going on in the US than there is here.
And more creative financing.
Yeah, but also,
Yes. So okay. Yeah.
and the cash on cash is better in the States, no?
It from what I see, yes. But again, it depends what you're buying, what class it. Like, you can't look at a variable of cash on cash and say it's better or not. You got to look at other variables and make a fair assessment, right? So I just think that you nailed it. Creative financing, like a lot of things are doable in the US that might be, like I said, maybe I just don't know how to do it in Canada, but I think they're just more complicated. Like taking or stepping into someone's debt, right? Taking over a mortgage, for example. I don't even know that it's doable, because every time I talk to a Canadian broker, they're like, "Oh, you can't do that here." And then you always find this one dude that's like, "No, it's doable, but you gotta jump a few hoops and whatnot." So maybe it is doable, but I think it's less common. I think like in the US, most sellers are very comfortable with seller financing. Like most sellers, it doesn't even phase them. It's more about, do I need all my money now because I have a project that requires it? Or do I not need my money now and I'm happy to take an interest rate in the meantime and defer my income taxes in the process? Right? That's what it's about. So like seller finance, in fact, most now with the interest rates being high, a lot of sellers are actually selling their homes or properties, I should say, and they're advertising seller financing. Bring 50% down, we'll do seller financing. Now, I think that's a red flag because it probably means that you're overpaying for the property. But the point is that if it's readily available, then it's something that they're more comfortable with.
Or what's the point of if you're going to put 50% down, might as well just do it with the bank,
Well, but
right?
the thing is banks aren't lending.
Oh, they're not.
It's hard. It's hard, man. There's like, especially if you're like in development, like, man, I got these clients that are coming in. They have deals that are just amazing, great locations. The demand is there for their product. Everything's aligned, and I'm talking to banks, talking even like family offices, high net worth individuals, and just a lot of them are just staying on the sidelines because they're just not sure what's coming next, and they prefer being, flush with cash on the sidelines than just dumping their money on something that may or may not pan out. And so I see a lot of deals that would probably have gotten funded in, 30 days or less, maybe just 6 to 12 months ago. And now it's really hard. Some people have to just give up on those deals and look for something else. Now, obviously, if you have a deal that's cash flowing through the wazoo and it's like a no-brainer cash flow wise and they're getting distributions right away, that's easier, but it's still not a home run every time. Like it used to be like it gets done, right?
You mentioned last time hotels is your new niche.
Yeah, part of it is it's not that it's a new niche. It's something where I'm concentrating more of my marketing at, all right? So because a lot of hoteliers, since COVID came, they've had a rough time to go through COVID. It was really hard. And a lot of them, even though now the business has started picking up again, I think they're so tired from what they've had to go through that they just want out. And so we're seeing a lot of good deals, at least by our standards, because that's obviously a personal, your investment objectives and what you consider a good deal. But for us, a good deal, I see them now in the hotel businesses. And we got a great one going on now that we've raised capital for, and we're going to close soon.
Sorry to interrupt. So when you say good deal, what's a good deal for you? Is it like an extent cash on cash? There's other metrics that you're looking for? What is it?
I look at a lot of things, but for me, it's how much cash are we keeping at the end after we pay off the expenses, the debt. How much is left over, and does it make sense? Does it make sense for me to put my efforts into this? We do look for high returns. We're probably unusually high returns. But we don't necessarily just look at it like cap rates. You look at it, but it's not your only driver. Cash on cash, you look at it, but it's not your only driver. And cash on cash for us is going to depend mostly on how creative we can get with the deal, because the less cash you put, the higher your return is going to be cash on cash. So those are related as well, but you have to look at them separately, because you have to work on the creative part first. And once you got to the creative part, now you look at, does it make sense cash on cash or not? And if it does, great. If it doesn't, next. So, again, I know that's not a straight answer for what a good deal is for me, but I like a deal that's cash flowing well, but that also still has a lot of upside left. So,
you can't have
I don't like
turnkey.
Like turnkey.
Turnkey. No, I don't like turnkey.
You want upside.
I like turnkey if I'm investing in another business. So let's say I'm a passive investor. You have a deal and you need money, and you say, hey, Gabe, you have 50 grand, 100 grand to invest in this. If I'm going to be an investor, passive 100%, yes, I'd be looking for something more turnkey, because the less they have to do, the more safe I consider.
But lower
my
returns
money.
as well.
Lower returns. But it's okay, because the higher returns I get from the deals I'm in control of. So as long as my portfolio averages a percentage that's higher than inflation after taxes and all that, I'm winning. So if I'm going to invest my money into another deal, I want to diversify, because if I put everything in my own deals, then everything I do is going to control. So let's say I make mistakes, because I do make mistakes, then a lot of it is at risk. But if I make mistakes and I screw up, which it could happen, then if my money's with 3, 4, 5 other deals, and it doesn't have to be real estate only, or it could be different asset classes. Like there's so many ways to diversify in the private equity world. And this is why I like that world, that on average, if I do things right, I should be successful. Again,
But
there's
do you
no
have like
guarantee.
a minimum cash on cash return? Like, let's say, is it 10%, 15%?
Yeah, it's got to be double digits, man.
So
Yeah,
minimum
10,
10%?
10. I like 12 better, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that what is the safest asset class? Would you say it's apartment buildings, affordable housing?
You mean in real estate specifically?
Yes.
It'd probably be private lending.
As the safest.
Well, yeah, because you're in control of the mortgage, right? If it, first of all, you have you're lending at a loan to value. So if a property's worth $1 million, again, I don't know how many of you listeners are comfortable with this lingo, so I'll explain. So if a property's worth $1 million and you go to the bank, you're probably gonna get maybe 75% of the value in debt. So you have to bring 25% down. When you're a private lender, you're essentially the bank for that person that's trying to borrow. And you set your own rules of what the loan is, right? So if a bank's not lending them, they come to you. So two things are going to happen. One, it means your risk is higher, right? Because if a bank won't touch it, it means it doesn't meet their criteria.
Exactly.
So now your risk is higher. So how do you mitigate that risk? One, higher returns, right? You're going to have a higher interest rate than a bank would. Two, security. Instead of lending at 75%, maybe you're lending at 65% loan to value. So for the $1 million, you're giving them $650,000. Maybe you're giving them $650 at 12, 13, 14% interest. Now, they have $1 million property. You have appraised it, right? You're going to protect yourself and appraise it. So if they don't make the payments, you get the property.
Yeah, but can you get the property right away? Is there a lot of headaches involved?
Yeah, so the process is there. I mean, it depends where you're doing this. For me in the US, there's no headaches because we structure things in a way where it's almost like they sign off on the property that they're handing it to us if they default contractually. Here, I don't think you can do that in Canada. So there's a foreclosing process that I'm not familiar with. So that's not my wheelhouse. But I know it's not fun. I think it takes maybe a couple of months, but it's doable. And if you educate yourself on that process before you make a loan, and whereas you know exactly what your checklist is, then you're okay. As long as you know and you factor in the costs of it. But all those costs typically are going to come out of the. So again, you're taking $1 million property in lieu of $650,000 you've put in. So whatever the headache is and the cost is it going to be less than that $350,000? It's definitely going to be. So it's really on the borrower. If they're willing to put $350,000 at risk, there's a good chance that they're going to do what they're supposed to do, right? Because they have more to lose than you, almost, right? Financially, no, because you have 650 in, but whatever appreciation, whatever work they're putting in there. And
so with private lending, there's usually a down payment.
There always is a down payment.
Sure,
yeah, I mean, some people may lend at 100% if they want, but again, I wouldn't recommend it. That's not how I would do things. But again, it's like the good old saying is, I mean, it's your money. Do whatever the hell you want with it. It's your call. If you're comfortable lending it to a degenerate gambler that's going to go to the bar and put in a machine, then so be it. If you feel like you're going to get your money back, but that's just not how I would do things.
So did you basically create yourself, or are you in the process of creating yourself a fund that focuses solely on private lending? I'm
no longer doing that. Right now, I'm focused more on syndication than the funds. I think in the long run, we're going to do a fund, but maybe more for the hotels than we will for private lending.
What's the difference between syndication and a fund?
Syndication is a deal specific. So you identify a property, let's say it's a hotel, you put it under contract, and then you raise capital from people who know they're investing in this hotel. A fund would be, we're raising $20 million and we're planning on buying a couple of hotels with that money. So you raise it under what we call soft commitment. So people say, yes, I'm going to contribute $1 million to your fund, but they don't actually send it in yet. And then once you get a deal under contract, then you say, okay, we're doing a capital call. And so if you only need $5 million for this hotel, you say, we're going to capital call $5 million. First $5 million to come in, that's the one we're taking. And then you start your process. You buy the property and you go on. But your deal is for $20 million, so you can still raise up to another $15 million. And until you've raised that $20 million, you're okay. Once you've raised the $20 million, you're done. If you want to do more, then you're going to create a second fund, third, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I'm helping a lot of people in that structure with different things, whether it's investments in real estate, Whether it's anybody, if you doesn't matter what you're in, you're in crypto, I got a team that's in the sports betting industry that we're going to probably launch a hedge fund with eventually. Now we're in the process of doing a syndication to again, it's not testing because we've beta tested everything, but it's more to have a syndication or a joint venture, bring in 1 or 2 investors only, give them massive returns. Because when you get into a fund structures, the investors are super passive. Their returns are going to be great, but they're going to be less than when you're doing a syndication or a joint venture, for example. So we want to reward the early adopters, basically. And that's what we're trying to do. And you create momentum, you create FOMO. So once we raise the 5 million for this group, let's say, and we start doing well, the returns are in that field, probably triple digits yearly. So if we get there, the investors are going to be super happy. When we launch a fund, how many friends do you think they're going to tell about, right? And that's kind of it's partly marketing as well.
Do you do that with Marco, or it's side business?
That's everything's on my own. Yeah.
Okay,
I do some deals with him, real estate wise, hotels. He's a master in his domain. And
so let's say we want to add value to you. Let's say as an example, let's use us. What do you need from us, or how can we add more value to you, basically? Like, what are you searching for?
I'm just searching for real strong entrepreneurs that have good businesses that just want to scale by raising capital. Again, more in the US, because I don't raise capital in Canada.
Okay. So you're looking for investors, basically?
Not investors too, but there's a solicitation rule as well in the US. So I'm not necessarily looking for money, but I'm building relationships. So the more people I meet and the more relationships I build, then yes, these people could have access to some of those deals eventually, yes.
Okay.
But I'm mostly looking for deal flow, always deal flow.
And for somebody watching this video right now that wants to learn how to move to the States, do you have any resources?
Yeah,
any
absolutely.
Tips? Maybe your email, Instagram, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. So, if you want to move, first of all, you got to find a security, not a securities attorney, an immigration attorney. Find an immigration attorney, a good one. And again, they're not cheap. Like, that's one thing. If you're gonna move and you want to do things right, a lot of people try to do it themselves, or they try and get the cheapest attorney out there. Cheap attorney could work, but it might also end up in problems. Once USIS was the arm of the U.S. that takes care of immigration, looks at your file and starts asking questions. We hired a really good lawyer, and we're still getting questions and all that. Thankfully, because they're good, they know how to react to this. They know exactly how to build the file, which is what you're paying for. But most people are going to be moving on what we call an EB2 visa, which is you start your own business or you buy into a business. And there's a lot to do there. There's a business plan you got to pull up. You got to prove that you're going there, and it's temporary. It's not like you're not going there to move full time. There's a lot of criteria to meet. But there's also now, I've been seeing different, like how a franchise is more or less turnkey. Once you buy into, you're buying into the system, right? So buying a franchise more expensive, but at least everything is ready for you. So when you want to immigrate, if you're buying a franchise, it's probably a lot easier. And there's a lot of businesses now that are starting to get turnkey, where people can start just buying into these concept systems and then moving that way. And of course, if your employer has already offices in the US, then you can simply apply for a position there. That's usually the simplest way and the fastest way. But you're going to have to go down the route of an immigration attorney. That's the best case scenario.
In your opinion, why do you think Florida has a better future than Canada?
It was a couple of
things. Because if there's a market crash in Canada, there's going to be a market crash, a real estate crash in the US, right?
But it's not market crash that I'm concerned about, because crashes will happen every so often, right?
So what's
7
the concern?
to 8 years. My concern is that the population is so old in Canada compared to the US that there's so few that are going to be in the working age class. That was my concern. It's demographics. That if there's only so many people that are working and they're the ones paying taxes, like already we're paying a lot of taxes, and our population is at our age group, like whatever the working age is, 25 to 50. But a lot of baby boomers are retiring. Like in the next 5 years, I think the last baby boomer is retired officially based on age. These people still have, and not with our medical systems, 20, 30, 40 years to live. Off what? Who's going to be paying for all these services? Right?
The working class.
The working class.
So
But
you're
if the
saying there's a
working
lot
class
less
is
working
shrinking-
class?
Yeah. If you look
Really?
at
I didn't know that.
So why do you think Canada has this immigration policy that they want to bring in? What was the new Trudeau thing that he said? 500,000 by 2025 or something like this. They have to. That's the only way you're going to keep a working class that's going to be able to pay taxes to support the system. The system's broken. It's been broken for a long time, but because the baby boomers were working and they're wealthy, they made a lot of money, a lot of equity. It was like a patch. It was like a Band-Aid. Now, the U.S. is not perfect by any means. Don't get me wrong. I'm not here to praise the U.S., but from a demographic perspective, their current youth, the class that's going to be 18, I think is the youngest in the world. There is nobody better positioned from a demographics perspective than the United States. So for me to put my children in a position where they're not going to be killed by the systems, for me it was simple.
But the thing is, what I don't understand is, okay, we're talking about, the working class is diminishing this and that, but clearly Canada has money because they just donated, $6 billion to Ukraine? So
Listen,
that's the part I don't get. $6 billion.
And the U.S. is doing the same thing. It doesn't.
So where's all this money coming from?
For 50 billion euros or something.
They're printing the money.
Okay, so they have money.
It's not that they have money, really. Like when you think about it, if they can just print money like this and create dollars, right, out of thin air, why are we paying taxes in the first place?
That's the thing.
But we're never gonna get to the bottom of this because we're not in control of this. What I'm saying, that I can only control what I can control, and what I'm seeing, again, it is my view, it is my opinion. Maybe there's someone listening that's like a hardcore economist that's like, this guy is fucking crazy.
Or reach out. Let's have a debate.
Or reach out. Let's not a debate.
A conversation.
It's more educational. Like I said, I'm always learning. I'm not perfect. I read what I can. I try and validate the sources I'm reading. I try and look at a bunch of different directions before I jump to a conclusion.
And this is another reason why we have the Nick and Jimmy show. We're literally learning right now.
Well, and you're learning, but you're learning my view.
Correct.
So if you're bringing someone else that has a separate view, it'd be great because
100%.
But again, I moved based on those circumstances, but I can tell you that my life's been so much better. And there's a lot of things in just in Quebec for me that were hard. Like, when you're successful in Quebec or when you're trying to be successful, when you're building something, not everybody's really happy for you. A lot of people are kind of secretly rooting for you to lose, and it's not a secret, I think, amongst the entrepreneurs. I think most people know this, and some see it as a chip on a shoulder where it's motivating for them. And you know what? If that's you, man, good on you. I just wish you all the success in the world. But for me, it was hard. Every time I tried to move a step forward, there's always somebody that's trying to step on you. It's like, why do I need this if I can go to a place where people are going to be encouraging me? Now, I talked to, man, I was on phone calls with ex-NBA players, ex-NFL players, and it's all about helping. There's nobody, everybody's excited, and they know I'm nowhere near their wealth level or anything, but the ideas that I put forward and to help them, because what I'm offering is going to help them, they're excited about it. And they're like, man, how can we help you help us? And that's something I didn't really hear a lot when I was here. Everybody was kind of in it for themselves. And I think to a certain extent, it's cultural. It is what it is. But for me, I'm happier there.
And less taxes.
Taxes, man. When I saw my wife's first paycheck when we got over there, that's why I said I should have moved there 10 years ago, man.
But what is it? For example, if you could...
in Florida, and there's, I think, a bunch of other states, maybe 4 or 5 other states.
There's no state taxes.
There's no state tax, right? So you're only paying the federal tax. And
which is what?
Depends on your bracket, but on average, it's in the 25% range.
Okay, so it's like here, almost?
Federal. Yeah, you have the provincial that adds to this. That brings you on $100,000 here. You probably pay what, $49,000 in taxes.
50%.
Call it 50. There you're paying $25,000. So you're keeping twice as much.
I think you're comparing corporate tax here.
Maybe. Yeah, the corporate tax is different. But I'm talking as an individual. So if you imagine keeping half of what you give to the government every year for 10 years and compound that, where would you be financially? Okay, now, I know people are saying, yeah, well, you got to pay for... No, you don't pay for healthcare necessarily. Now, if you don't have anything, yes, you pay for healthcare. But if you're working, you have insurance like everyone else.
A few things are more based on the conversation that I had with people that live in Florida.
Let's talk it out. Yeah.
I think is healthcare is more expensive.
Well, healthcare depends. Like my wife has a
private
job
insurance.
there. My wife has a job there, so we're covered under her job. So there is no.
But she pays for it, no?
She pays for it through the paycheck.
So
yeah.
just like here, where we do the same thing.
Exactly.
That's group insurance.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
but
group-
it's the same thing there, except that it's a little bit more expensive.
Okay, let's say you didn't have that. You're looking at it depends. If
Private
you have
insurance.
family,
Yeah. So look,
private insurance.
I
Let's
did
say $500 a month.
No, more than that.
Oh,
no,
wow.
no, it's more than that. Yeah. Private insurance would probably, if you want to be like fully covered, you don't pay a cent.
$1,500.
It's going to be close to no, for a family of four.
Family of four.
Family of four.
Or
like
let's say
us,
me family of five.
a family of five. I wouldn't know because I did family of four,
Okay.
and it was about close to $4,000 a month.
Okay, so there you go, huh? So basically, if you're saying if you're making $100,000 a year, if you're spending $4,000 a month on insurance plus your taxes of 25%, you're screwed.
You're in the hole.
No, you're not screwed because
What do you mean?
because the $4,000 is based on my income bracket. So it means the people that make less money, they get a credit from the government.
Okay, let's
and
say
so their
$100,000
insurance
a year.
goes down.
100
Listen,
grand.
look, I'll give you a check. I'll give you and I can't tell you on $100,000. You'd have to call them and tell them these are my variables. I called for my family. They told me $4,000. Then I called and I said, what if my parents live with me? They're dependents. They're going to be living with me. Now we're 6 with the same income, right? Because we're not going to be making more money because they're there. And they gave us a credit. It was like almost $1,500 cheaper a month just because we had more people in the household. So it really depends on your income. But again, you don't need that. Like even I'm an entrepreneur. She has a job. We're going down the road with her insurance. So
That's fine. But what I'm trying to say is that
if you're both entrepreneurs, but again, if you're gonna buy insurance through your company first.
I think it's aiming, correct me if I'm wrong, roughly the $500,000 mark. So $500,000, you're spending $40K a year in insurance. It's 10%. It's nothing.
No, but what I'm saying is that, okay, let's just simple math. Let's say you make
$100K, it's probably
No, but you can't do that like that.
Let's
guys.
just say $100,000.
Yeah.
Let's say it's $2,000 a month for your family of 4.
Yeah.
If you make $100,000 a year, $2,000 a month. So it's still, we agree, it's about $24,000 a year. And if you're paying, let's say,
call it even. You're right. Okay, you know what? Let's go down that road because I know where you're going, but I'm going to tell you why it's better anyways. So you're going down the road where it comes to the same, right? At the end of the day, you're paying 25. Okay, You're right. Okay, let's say you're right here. How long do you have to wait for surgery here?
That's a long time.
What are the quality of your hospitals? I'm going to tell you a story here that, whatever, just because it happened, I'm going to tell you what happened to me. I got back home. Last time I came to Montreal, I came here. My mom she got a blood clot. All right.
Oh, shit, okay.
So her right hand fell numb. She went to the hospital. They put her on blood thinners, whatever the case may be. They couldn't tell why. They gave her an electrocardiogram. They did, and they wanted to do a scan. The scan took 2 days before she got it. After that, the electrocardiogram they did right away. It was clear. And then they're like, okay, well, we're going to wait now, but you're going to probably need surgery to remove the clot. We're going to do it tomorrow. The next day, no, we're going to do the day after. It took a week before she got her surgery. Okay, so between the day she went in and the way she went out, it was 7 days. Okay, with a blood clot. She did one scan. She did one electrocardiogram. 2 weeks after that, I went back home. I wake up in the middle of the night and my forearm is numb.
What?
And now I wait. I'm like, you know what? Because what happened is I got up quickly and I had like a low blood pressure where you kind of feel dizzy and whatnot. So I sat back down. And that's when you have low blood pressure, everything feels a little bit, tingly or not. But my right arm stayed tingly. Everything else went back to normal. I waited an hour, 2 hours. I went to the emergency after. I said, I'm not taking a chance. Plus, I just saw what my mother went through. I started thinking that I may be having the same thing. I went in at 3 a.m. I drove myself. I get there, tell the lady what I have. Right away, I go inside. They take my blood pressure. They take a blood sample. They do the diabetes test, and then they bring me to a doctor. Within the next 30 minutes, I had done an EKG, a scan.
This is in Florida?
In Florida.
Okay.
A scan.
Okay.
I did all that. I did all these tests within an hour. The doctor came and goes, listen, everything's clear. Nothing in the brain, nothing, like they want to check if there's a stroke. None of that. They go, but the neurologist wants to keep you here just for observation. He wants you to do an MRI, and he wants you to do an
MRI
echo.
is usually hard to get, bro.
Yeah, an echo. Okay. So I'm like, okay. He's like, so we're going to give you a room. So I went upstairs. That's from the emergency. I go upstairs. They give me a room. I get to my room, air conditioning, television's working. My nurse has a cell phone that's for the hospital. I can call her anytime I need something. There's no buttons, none of that crap, right? Where they, hey, what do you need? And no, they come. Then around noon, they brought my food. First of all, they came in at 8 o'clock when I got my room. They asked me, what do you want to eat? They gave me a menu, all right, and all this food. Now, I ordered, but you figured it's going to be hospital food. It's crap, right? They bring me my food. If I showed you the picture what this food looked like, it's
Greek food.
It's better than some food that I've seen in restaurants.
Okay.
Right? A nice big half chicken, broccoli, and a starch. Beautiful. I didn't eat it because they came and got me from an MRI. I went to the MRI, echo, everything. By 3 p.m., I was back home. So
12 hours total?
12 hours.
Every test in the book. Wow.
They did 5 scans when they did the scan.
How much do you have to pay for that now?
I paid
Deductible.
0.
Yeah, but
It's included in insurance.
Insurance covered
okay,
everything.
you have no deductible?
0. In this case, it could have been that we had a deductible, but because some people do have that, but whatever it is, this is going to be peanuts compared to. And here's another secret for those people who think, well, if you don't have insurance, because when we got there, we didn't have insurance.
You tell us some of the bill.
My son had an allergic reaction, right? Like it was bad. We called the ambulance. They came and they said, listen, we would prefer you take him to the hospital to get checked just to be sure. We brought him there. He stayed 4 hours. We came back. The next week, we got a bill, 10 grand. Okay?
Oh my God.
$10,000. So they call us the next day to say, just to let you know, make sure that you got your bill, this and that. They said, we don't have your insurance on record. So my wife tells them, well, we don't have insurance. She goes, oh, okay, hold on. The next day, we got a new bill, $800.
What?
So don't believe what you hear.
Loophole.
What
It's not a loophole.
Well, that's a scam,
it's because
bro.
there's a government program.
Yeah, but that's a scam.
It's not a scam. It's a scam against the insurance. It's just the way it works. So what I'm telling you is that you can't compare the two. It just isn't. And this is a real life example. Like I went through it. Now I got the bill for what I went through because I had insurance, and it was 40 grand for everything that I did. All right. But I didn't have to pay for it. If I had to pay for it out of my pocket, I said no insurance. Now, would it have been expensive with all this? Probably.
At least 5 grand even, bro.
At least. Fair enough. But 5 grand, if that's what I paid, and I paid no, like your 25% that you're attributing to your healthcare here, I don't have to pay that, right? I don't have to have insurance. It's not
25%?
mandatory. Well, you said
Well,
100,000, 25% to taxes, 25% to healthcare, right?
No, here. No, it's $900 a year, no?
Yeah, but that's
No.
around Q.
What I'm telling you is that you're telling me that
Oh, okay.
you
yeah,
spent
yeah.
100,000, you took 25% for the taxes
Says so.
because they're federal. The other 25 is basically what you're saying
Yeah.
is the part for healthcare.
Yeah.
But I don't have to pay $25,000 a year. If I don't get sick, I don't pay nothing. If I went and did this procedure and they gave me a $5,000 bill, even a $10,000 bill, but you have to take this and compare it to the 10, 15 years I'm going to live without using, without paying the emergency because I don't have to go. It's the first time I go to the hospital in my life outside of when I was born. So, right, yeah, you know what I mean? So if I have to pay 10, 15 grand one time, and then I don't have to pay it, now use that math over how many years I'm making income. So there's a lot of it. Now I'm hoping you never have to go to the hospital and you haven't had to go, but you're still paying for all that stuff. For people that are going to the emergency because they have a cold and they're waiting in line because they have a cold.
No, but can't you do the same thing with no insurance? What about here? If you have no insurance, it's not.
Everybody has insurance. It's covered by that MQ,
Okay.
right?
That's
Right.
9 bills a year.
But you're still paying for it, $900 a year.
But plus you're paying the part that goes from your income taxes.
Yeah. So all in all, you're saying no matter how much money you're making, let's say if it's 100 grand a year, 150, 200.
Million.
Okay.
Whatever.
And now why Florida instead of, let's say, California, instead of New York, instead of.
Again, taxes was a big plus.
Okay.
It had to be in the South because I'm not going to move to somewhere where there's snow and cold.
What about Texas?
All right. So Texas and Florida were the two choices.
Okay, got it.
My wife said, it's Florida. I prefer the beach. It was that simple, man. At the end of the day, I don't make decisions. I provide options and someone else makes the decisions.
How about school?
Yeah, that's the best question right here because school.
Private or public?
My kids are public school. Actually, when we decided where to live, the first thing we looked at was the location of the best public schools.
Right?
No.
The red zone.
No. It's public schools. There's a public school system
Boca
because
Raton.
not all schools are created equal. And in Florida, there's a lot of crappy public
Is it
schools.
Delray or Boca?
Boca, in my case. And they
How
have
much is it per year for public? Just books?
zero, not even. Nothing. We don't pay a cent.
What?
A cent.
Why?
Just the way it is.
Public schools are free, completely free?
Completely free. They feed them too. Breakfast and lunch.
What?
They feed them.
Yeah, that was Trump
My
that
son
did this.
sta-
Yeah.
Really? My
Yeah.
son started, and we're cooking everything.
I know.
My wife is
Whoa,
cooking.
hold
I didn't
on.
think that.
In the U.S., in general?
I don't know about general. I'm telling you about my case. I
Okay,
don't want to
Florida.
misinform anyone.
Okay, so if let's say Florida,
in the yeah,
Well, in
Florida.
Boca, let's say.
No, but in Florida because
in Florida,
yeah,
it's completely free for public.
public
Still,
grade school.
Yeah.
right.
That's what
Here we pay. We have to pay the books. We have to pay everything.
My daughter's in middle school because they don't go straight to high school. There's like a 3 years of middle school. I know she gets lunch included. I don't know about breakfast for them, but my son
Still, huh?
in grade it's for sure. Yeah, but again, and at the same time, guys, like don't go crazy. It's not like it's super great food. Like I still send them with a lunch because I want them to eat
But
well.
still, bro,
Yeah,
still.
but you know that you have a party Sunday night, Monday you don't feel like doing nothing. Yeah, it's taken care of, 100%.
Beautiful.
So we don't pay a cent for that, and not only that, it's the services that they get. Like my son needs speech therapy, voice therapy. Here I had to go to private because the school system didn't have anything for him. There they have people on staff for that, and it's completely free. It's taken care of.
Okay.
Okay, and how about private? If
Private
you
school,
wanna
yeah. So
switch
if you're in a
into private.
crappy area, public school wise, then you want to send them to private. Then obviously you got to do your research because not all private schools are created equal. But in my neck of the woods, private school is expensive. It's
We're looking at what, 30 a year?
30 a year is There's some at 50 a year, some at 20 a year, but on average it's 25 to 30 a year
Okay,
per
well,
kid.
yeah, but so it's better to just go in a good area.
Yeah, but that's what I said. We picked based on the public school system. So when we were searching, I say we, my wife did that research. She found two places that she was comfortable sending the kids to school. One was Boca, the other one was Sarasota on the West Coast. They had great schools, great reviews, great results, and great results on all the standardized tests from the kids.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why, and that's why my area where I live, the houses are a lot more expensive because everybody wants to
I
flock there
love
for those
Boca.
reasons.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Delray
is.
too.
But
Yeah,
what's the
original.
difference? Like, let's say in Boca Raton, right? What would you say the difference is between the public schools and the private schools in Boca Raton?
No,
What's the main
actually, the public schools are actually some of them are better.
Wow.
Yeah, private schools, I think maybe the security is different, things of the nature. It's also the demographics. A lot of parents, when they're super wealthy, they want to send their kids to the same places, but it's your neck of the woods. So Boca's not all created equal. Like if you're in certain zip codes, you get to go to the schools we go to, and that's why we went there. But there's other zip codes in Boca that are really nice in terms of housing, living. It's just that the public schools in those zip codes are not as great. So they send their kids to private school because they can, right? Like if there's a lot of there's tons of money there. Like some people, I mean, listen, I see more Rolls Royces than Honda Civics, put it this way, in my neck of the woods. So these people have no problem paying for everything. Some other country clubs where they live cost more than these schools. So
It's crazy.
Here's a little question, politics style.
yeah,
So with the BRIC, is it called the BRICS?
yeah, the BRICS.
Which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South America. Now Saudi Arabia joined. Where do you think the
Did they
US
officially join or did they?
I'm not sure. Where do you think the US dollar is going to be in 10, 20, 30 years from now?
It's tough, man. That's a really
Because we're
loaded
talking about the
question.
kids' future now, right?
Yeah. It's a loaded question. So the thing is the real question is the U.S. going to remain the reserve currency of the world, right? That's the real question. And the answer is I personally think it will. The only reason I think it will is because, again, it's my opinion, but I think it's the only thing that would put the U.S. in such a risky position as a country that they would be willing to go to World War III for. And because they have the most powerful army, probably the only navy. I mean, there's no navy.
Do you think they have the most powerful army?
100%.
You don't think China? Because they have a lot of people.
It's not because the powerful army is not just in equipment and in
Technology.
in technology. It's not just that. It's also geographic location. The way the U.S. is in terms of how they navigate their position, it's like the game of Risk, right? If you ever played, the way you position your armies, their navy. It's the navy that's the most powerful thing. And because I think they spend more money on the Navy than the next like 7-8 countries put together. And they have more of these aircraft carriers and super aircraft carriers than anyone in the world. So they can have these located anywhere. They can attack in instance. Whereas China, even though they have a powerful, they got to get here, right? So, and getting here is not easy because they don't have much access to waterways there, right? The way they're positioned. So it's interesting. If you do your homework on the geography, the location, again, the US is probably hits all the check marks in terms of the best place for all that. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to win at anything. I'm just saying, like when you're placing a bet at the casino, you're playing your odds, right? Even if, listen, I had a full house with 3 diamonds on the floor, and probability wise, it's the best hand that I had. There was no way you can get a 4 of a kind because there wasn't even a pair on the ground. But I got beaten by a straight flush. So the guy I was playing against had 2 cards that were the diamonds and that were also in sequential order, because if he had just the color, I would have beat him, right? No, he had a straight flush, not just a flush. So just to say that even when you put all you try to mitigate all the risks, shit can happen. And the US, same thing. I'm not saying it's the best place in the world to live. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that from where I'm standing, based on what I've done as homework for me, my circumstances, my family, I think we're better off there for now. Now, does it mean
for
that?
Now?
I say it's always for now. What I've realized is that everything is temporary. And it could be that we stay there forever, but it also could be...
Back?
Come back, no, because of the reasons. I mean, I left for a reason. I'm not going to come back.
What's another place?
But another place, I don't know. I haven't done my homework yet. I know Panama was somewhere I was interested in. I just like the fact that they're very stable and, economically, politically, all that. But there's other countries that are small. I mean, as we age, also my wife and I, you need a lot less. I could probably go to like a small island somewhere and kind of just buy a house on the beach and retire there and just be very simple. All we need is an internet connection, really, and we can do whatever we want. We can stay connected with the people we love. We can work. We can do whatever we want. So right now it's about the children, getting them through school, getting them to the point where they're independent and they want to do, live their own lives, make their own decisions for them and their families. That's my role for now. And
talking about that, you're also a student with Christopher.
Absolutely. We share a mentor, coach. I don't even know what we call him at this point, but he's been great. And you guys introduced me to him, interestingly, right? Last time we met, when I beat you to the cohorts. Unfortunately, I was hoping that you were going to be in mine. But listen, Chris, if you're listening, man, I appreciate you very much. You've definitely enlightened me. And it's funny because it's not things that he taught me that I didn't know. It's just maybe it was the right timing, but the way he presented it, like I've made changes like you guys I'm sure are, and I have good habits now, and they are contributing to positivity in my life, not just in business and life and your relationships. Everything is on the up and up. It's not easy making changes into habits, but once you get a roll, it's like riding a bike, right? The first couple of pedals, it's hard, but then eventually when the bike's rolling, it's rolling, right? You don't need to even touch the pedals.
And for the people that don't know who Christopher is, if you want to...
Christopher is, you guys might be in a better position to tell them who he is.
He's a business coach. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to scale your business, and not only your business, your life, reach out to Christopher Dedeyan.
Yeah, he's great. I can vouch.
Yeah, it's all about level 10 life, man. It's all about having a level 10 lifestyle and every day becoming a better version of yourself. It's like, example, I used to vape. Yeah. Now it's been over probably like 45 days.
Yeah.
And I don't even think about it anymore because I want to become better in every little area of my life.
Yeah.
And
health
working.
is one of them.
Of course, man. Absolutely.
You know what? Entrepreneurs specifically, and this is what's cool about Christopher, is that, he's tailored to entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
A lot of us think business first, and business takes over everything. Takes over our relationships, takes over our health, takes over... And we get these bad habits because we're so focused in this one area, but not knowing that because we're not taking care of the other areas, it's actually hindering us from moving forward into the one area that we're putting all our focus on. So that's what the part that I was realizing, that holy shit, I'm basically my own worst enemy, even though I think what I'm doing is right.
Yeah, it's true, man.
Yeah, so but he's been great, and if you don't know him, follow him. You know what? I'm not here to preach for my own choir. It's just he's a great dude, and he's going places.
Oh yeah.
And I'm glad to be on his ship as well. And You can never have enough good mentors, and I'm glad he's one of mine. I have other ones, and I'm sure you guys have other ones.
Of course.
Surround yourself with the best, and the rest is just inevitable, I think.
So for anyone who's just getting started in the entrepreneurial world and wants to be a success in every area of their life, what do you recommend? Give some tips and tricks, man.
Yeah, and whether you're young or just fed up with your job, want to go on your own, the best thing is get educated. Whatever you want to do, get it. And when I say educated, you might know what you want to do in terms of if it's a service or product you're offering, and you have that nailed probably because you've already done the work in terms of education. Surround yourself by mentors, coaches, people who are already where you want to be in the future, because it's not about what they're going to teach you in terms of the knowledge. It's more about avoiding mistakes on the way there. And just like I said, like for me, just even now, I mean, I feel like I'm a seasoned entrepreneur. I've been doing it for so many years, and I don't consider myself successful yet, and even nowhere near it. But maybe to somebody else's eyes, I am. But to me, I'm not where I want to be. I keep striving to move forward, and I keep surrounding myself with better people because they've made the mistakes. They've paid for the mistakes. Mistakes are costly in business. Especially like in real estate, man, you make one mistake, it costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've made that mistake. So paying someone a few tens of thousands or 100,000 to help you or help you avoid costly mistakes, to me, that's the best ROI, is investing in yourself. Start with that. Surround yourself with the right people. And it's not just for the mistakes, because the networks that come with these people is unreal. Like, man, just you two, your networks. I mean, we talk all the time, and there's always, if I need something, there's always someone that's doing it, vice versa. We're talking about Chris. Chris is super plugged in. He works with some of the best CEOs. If I'm having a problem with this or I want to raise capital, he might have a few places to send me that might help. It's about the network. So start by surrounding yourself appropriately, and don't look at it as a cost, guys. It's an investment. It always is, and it I promise you, outside of life insurance, it's like the best ROI.
Do you offer like any courses or any mentorship for real estate or raising cap, or somebody that wants to become?
In terms of mentorship directly, no. Like, I'm always happy to help someone if they reach out, and I can guide them to who I feel best helped me. What I do have is a due diligence program for real estate specifically, where we, if you have a property that you want to buy and you're not sure how to do your due diligence, we can either teach you how to do it, we can do it for you.
Okay.
We have also a partnership program where we can, instead of paying us to do it for you, you can pay us an equity to do it for you. Like, there's so much we can offer. So again, we do this mostly in the US, but if you want to do it in Canada, we can discuss it. But again, I just, reach out if you need anything, and if I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll try and send you somewhere or someone that can.
And if somebody wants to follow your success story or follow you or reach out to you, email, Instagram, what do you recommend?
Or your OnlyFans?
Yeah, OnlyFans. Yeah, that's it. That's where I expose my feet, and no OnlyFans. I didn't get the permission from the missus. But Instagram, Twitter, I'm or X now, I believe, is and I guess maybe it's better you post the actual links there, because I don't even know what they are. I have to send it to you. I'm still on Facebook because I'm over 40, so you can reach out there as well. Instagram, yes, all those.
MySpace.
I'm not on MySpace. No, not
High Five.
Yahoo Chat, whatever.
What was it? ICQ.
I don't even know this. I don't.
MIRC.
I was always like delayed when it comes to anything that was electronic. I wasn't really good, so I don't venture too much. But I'm starting to get into this funnels and all that stuff. So no emails as just yet. Even the website, I don't get. I'm very private. I like to do my things, with referral business mostly, because it's very tailored. When you have a business, you want to raise capital for it. There's a lot of time input, but I don't invest in the deal or the business, right? Like, it's like, for me, my bet is never on the horse, it's on the jockey. Mm-hmm. So if you're a good entrepreneur and you have good intentions and you have a good project, I'll take you on, and then we'll work together. But you can have a project that has 1,000% return on investment every year, but if you're a shitty human, or you have bad intentions, or you're doing it for the money outside, like, there's no outside. Like, if you're doing anything for money,
just shallow.
We can't work. We can't work together. I've learned my lesson. Every time I work with someone it's about the money, that's why they're doing something, I've gotten burned. So I don't do that. So that's why I don't market. I have enough business as is just referral because I work with good people. We do good things. So, you get good people in return. That's kind of just the way I work. Absolutely. But if you need any help, I'm always, I'll make time. I will help you. And, it's my pleasure. Like I said, my mission from the get-go is to help as many people as I can. And if I can help you even like a fraction of your success is because we had a chat, it's going to be a blessing on my end. So
beautiful,
I'd be grateful for that.
Do you read books?
Yeah, I read a lot of books now. Actually,
what's your favorite book?
Christopher, man, it's favorite book is hard, man. I have a bunch of them. It depends on what type of book.
Well, actually, the one you mentioned to us before.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a business, and you have employees or you need employees, the book Traction has one of the best blueprints on how to build a successful structure for business so that you hire the right people at the right times in the right places. Definitely, that's a great book for that. But like I read Who Not How, great book too.
Who Not How.
Yeah,
okay.
Who Not How because it's basically about learning to delegate everything so you can remove yourself from the equation. That's how I try and do business. Every time I do business, I try and I will only start a business if I know that
it's scalable.
It's scalable and I can get out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who Not How, man, there's I forget the names of, there's another book, like if you're looking at geopolitics and whatnot, Peter Zahan, the author, has some good books there, especially on the demographic side. Like when I was reading his books, I started reviewing and I'm like, there's something to this in terms of the population and this is why, we're not going to get into political debates but like the Russia and Ukraine situation stems a lot from the demographics. Russia is running out of young people. It's probably one of the oldest populations on the planet. And they have almost like a near 0% survival if they don't do something. And the something that they did is what they're doing. And they need youth. And that's just kind of one of the reasons. It's not the reason. But, I know that Peter Zahan called it in I think in one of his books that he wrote years ago, that he saw Russia trying to go after Ukraine, right? So it was in the book. So from a geopolitical standpoint, he saw it. Now, was it a luck? I don't know, like I said. But so depending on what type of book you want to read, like there's different avenues. And but now because of my new habits and I read every day.
Good. You're a reader now.
I was a reader, but just not to the point where like now I think I'll be able to. I'm not gonna get to like the book a week type of thing.
No,
that's not
still.
But I'll probably read a good 20 to 25 books this year.
It's amazing, bro.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's been great, and it's been it's really been gratifying as well. Like there's a lot of good, and you know what? My daughter started habits. She's seen what I'm doing. She started her own. She reads every day. She's 13.
Okay.
She works out every day. She reads she trains because she's a figure skater. She reads every day, and obviously her homework, but there's a process of things that she's got to accomplish before she opens the television or talks to a friend.
Love it.
And she's adopted that, and it's
Discipline.
shown. It's shown in her
discipline.
Result. She's already strong at school. She's gotten strong.
You think I should start doing it with my kids, but 5 and 4 years old?
It's still young in my opinion, but it's every kid has their range. Like my son is not, I don't even think my son by the time he's 13, he's still going to be mature. It's a maturity thing, I think, where he can do certain habits and whatnot.
Slowly but surely, let's say.
You're it's like everything where you're going to start noticing trends in your children where you're like, man, I think this is the right time. You'll see it. You'll know it, One thing you should teach them, and I did this with my daughter, is teach them about money. Like, and not money about the spending and the value. The value maybe a little bit. Here's how I did it with my daughter. I created these fake dollars at home. I actually printed them out. They had Mickey Mouse on them or whatever. I cut them out and they were in like 1s, 5s, and 10s. And depending on what, we put a scale on things. If she woke up and made her bed, right, she'd get a dollar, a fake dollar.
At what age was
she was younger. She was like, she's always been kind of super advanced. So I think she must have been in that age, 4 or 5 years old. And it continued for a couple of years. And then sometimes she would do something amazing and you should get a straight 10, and I taught her to change her 1s for 5s and 5s for 10s, just to learn, how we operate in grocery stores and whatnot. But the magic happened when she wanted to change those dollars fake dollars into real currency, right? So she'd have to come to me because I'm the federal bank or whatever you want to call it, right? In our family. So, and there was conversion rules. So if, depending what you wanted to do with the money. So if you wanted to, I don't know, she wanted to buy candy, she needed $5, or buy a toy that she wanted, she needed $10. Well, for every dollar she gave me, she would get 50 cents back in real money. If she wanted to invest the money, she would get 1-to-1. So if she gave me $10, she'd get $10 back, and it would be invested. If she wanted to donate it to charity, she'd get 1.5-to-1. So if she'd give me $10, I'd give her 15, and she'd donate it to charity. And I waited, because what I wanted to see is, because this is how real life works, right? The government takes 50% of your paycheck before you see it, and then you get the rest to spend on your crap, right? And then when you invest, you get your returns, and then you pay taxes, right? And charity is just, you want your kids to turn out to be good humans, and you want to give back. If you do well, you want to give back. The interesting thing is, because of our rules, and it's simple, it's not like real life, right? If she invested the money and then decided to withdraw her investment, she'd still get 1-to-1 to spend on crap, right? So I wanted to see if the logic came around for that. That's what I wanted to create. I wanted to notice that before you buy, and it's the same thing, where you buy an asset that creates cash flow, and then you use the cash flow to buy your crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was trying to ingrain at that time. Eventually, she just read Rich Dad Poor Dad and figured it out, right? So, and she read it at a young age. She fought me for it, but once she read it, she's like, she's gonna have to read it again. But
you're a great father, man.
Listen, it's not. I don't think I'm a great father. I'm by far, you know what? I'm probably a terrible one. But I try and do my best with what I know. You know, there's things that my parents just didn't know, and you don't know what you don't know in life. But what I do know that does work, I wanna transfer that knowledge as fast as possible. Because, you know, none of us know how long we're around, right? We don't know when our time is up. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it took me like 30, 35 years before I even met someone who wanted to teach me this, or even that I opened my eyes enough that said, I'm not good enough. I need to get help. And so.
And who taught you that?
Yeah. And myself, I went through it's all my mistakes. I failed so often. Eventually it was like, okay, like this isn't working. So, and then you start reading books. And Rich Dad Poor Dad was given to me when I was in my early 20s. And I never read it. And then I made all these mistakes, smashed my head, my face, almost lost a marriage. And then I decided to pick it up. I found it, I read it, and I'm like, holy shit, you know, all the mistakes I made, they were avoided in chapter 1. And they would have been avoided. But again, I'm built based on my mistakes. So I don't regret it. It's just, it wasn't my time to learn, but I have the knowledge. So I want to give it to my children as fast as possible. And you see, like my daughter, my son is not there yet. So we don't have these conversations yet. But it will come, and the right time will come. But his sister knows. So even if, knock on wood, now there's 2 people that know in the family.
Awesome, man.
We appreciate you, bro. Thank you for your time. We're proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. And you have bright future ahead of you, 100%. And we're fortunate and we're grateful that you're in our life. And I'm sure we're going to do something great together in the future.
100%. I appreciate you guys, and I feel, man, the feeling's mutual. It's always great when you guys. I appreciate you come and visit every time you're in Boca.
100%.
It's so cool, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hopefully, it's going to become more often.
I think November. We're aiming November.
Yeah.
November. You're coming for elections, for the primaries.
No. That's